Hello and welcome to the video lecture associated with the SQL Standard and enhancements that have happened over the past, I guess, couple of years anyway. So first of all, what you need to understand is that the data types that you're used to can be subclassed. So that means, for instance, you have the varchar data type, or in Microsoft Access, when you were creating your database projects, you had character or text, right? And you could always use that data type in a table, give it a different size, and you were off and running with your table. With SQL, in the larger database management systems, you can actually create for yourself your own data type, subclassed from existing data types. So for instance, very often you would have an address column, right? But when you have a normalized relation and you create a table, that usually consists of, you have a street address, which is one column, maybe you have a street address 2 is another column, street address 3, then city, state, zip. What you can do is you can actually create a data type called address that is comprised of text data types of different sizes. So you can have one address column, and inside of it you can actually store 7 or 8 fields of text. For instance, street 1, street 2, street 3, city, state, zip, etc. So you can define your own data types. Very useful. Getting more and more attention nowadays than it did when it first came out. Next are what are known as analytical functions. You've probably, unless you're living under a rock, you've heard about business analytics, you've heard about Google Analytics. Everybody's talking about analytics and analyzing data and trends and statistics. So now there are, or there have been for quite a while, analytical functions. OLAP that you see there is online analytical processing. So these functions, ceiling, floor, square root, rank, dense rank, roll up, cube, sample, window, are all analytical functions that help you analyze. So obviously square root. Rank is typically used with window, or more commonly with over. Over and window are virtually the same function. So cube, we'll talk about roll-ups and cubes. We'll talk about a little bit when we get into data warehousing, where there's a lot more analytics going on there when you want to analyze trends over time. Along with the analytic functions, brand new data types. So these data types were added to the basic set of data types. We've got now a big int as opposed to the int and the small int. We have multi-set, which is very similar to an array, only in this case the multi-set is really something in between an array and a table. I haven't particularly used it very much, but it seems to be very useful. XML is a new data type. We have half of a chapter that we're going to cover on XML later on, because XML is the way that people exchange data across the internet now. We have a create table like command. It used to be that you could create a table as, which would create another table, but the table that got created wouldn't have any of the constraints associated with the original table. So it was really just a structure and a data type of create table statement. Now the create table like, which also uses the including keyword, can create a table that is exactly like the other table for various reasons. I used to refer to that as the poor man's backup because it was a very simple and easy way to make a copy of a table before I did any kind of testing. So this way, if I destroyed anything, I could just rename the other table and bring it back, and I was back in business. The merge command is combines update and insert. So it'll actually look at two data sets, and it'll make the decision on whether or not it should be inserting records into the table or updating records that already exist. Very, very powerful. Along with that, we get into persistent stored modules. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next video associated with routines and triggers. But now we can actually create stored modules, and I shouldn't say now, been able to do this for years and years. We can create and drop code modules. We have new statements. We talked about the case and the if, well, the case anyway, and the big if in Microsoft Access in a previous video lecture. But we have if statements, we have loop, we can loop, we have a for loop, we have a while loop, we have do loops, which for all intents and purposes makes SQL into a procedural language. Oracle has PL/SQL, procedural language SQL, and Microsoft SQL Server has its own flavor of transact SQL. They are very, very similar, but they certainly have their differences. But depending on what environment you find yourself in, if you are proficient in one, you will become very proficient in the other very quickly. So that is the end of my video lecture on the SQL standard enhancements and extensions that we've come across in the past few years.